Okay, so can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes,
All right. Okay. Okay, so tonight, uh, we thank the Lord that we are now in law number 12. This is about the law of curiosity. So, um, in the book of John Maxwell, the subtitle is Growth is Stimulated by Asking Why. But in his most current speaking engagement, he would use this subtitle for the law of curiosity. Growth is driven by wanting to learn more. So, are you curious? Do you always ask why? Do you want to learn more? So, those are the things that we are going to talk about tonight. All right. Now, we will start off with this quote from George Bernard Shaw. He said, "Some men see things as they are and ask why. Others dream things that never were and ask why not." So you have two kinds of people here. Um, the first group of people just see things as they are and ask why. But others would see things as they could be and would ask, why not? So I think both are important, asking why and asking why not. But sometimes, when you ask why, it sounds like you're sad, you're kind of disappointed. Why? Why is this happening? So sometimes when we ask why, it's as if we are helpless. It's as if there's nothing left to do. It's as if we are questioning God. But of course, we should continuously ask why to discover, but we should also ask why not. Okay? When people say, oh, that could not be done, why not? Right? So in some other quotations, another version of this quotation is, some look at things as they are and ask why, while others look at things as they could be and ask why not. Okay? So we should also be, say, asking, instead of just asking why, we should also be asking why not. All right? So now, there are three words that when you mix these three together, it can take you beyond ordinary. All right? So I think these are three powerful words, okay, that when you combine them together, that's when you will be taken beyond ordinary. The first word is curiosity. So curiosity would always ask more questions. Okay. Now, a lot of people think that when you become a leader, then you should be more of an answer person. That means you should be giving all the answers to those who are asking questions. But when you are a leader, you should not stop asking questions, the right questions, the important questions, because it will push you to grow. It will push you to discover. It will push you to question the status quo, question the mediocrity, the mediocre, question the what's available. So curiosity would ask more questions. Now, the second word that says uh, that if combined together can take you beyond ordinary is the word imagination. Because imagination would create more options. Now, options actually is a good word. Okay. That means you are not locked in just one choice. You have several options. You are not just boxed um, in just one alternative and no other else. So imagination would require you to think, are there other possible options that can that I have in order to address a certain issue or a certain problem. So imagination creates more options, and creativity will provide more solutions. So, three powerful words, moms and sirs, tonight, that if you take them together, combine them, it can take you beyond ordinary. Now, if you look at the billionaires or the powerful individuals in the world today, many of them, the rich, the billionaires, the top 10 richest people in the world, many of them did not just inherit their wealth. Many of them actually accumulated their wealth, or they became wealthy because of these three words. They were curious, their imaginations provide them a lot of options, and their creativity has provided solutions to what they perceive as the needs of the people. In fact, in the business world, in the world of entrepreneurship, okay, so they would say just starting a business or being a businessman is different from being an entrepreneur, because when you're a businessman you can just sell anything. Okay, for example, here in the Philippines you have a sari sari store there, and beside the sari sari store is another sari sari store, and beside that is another sari sari store. So, well, they're into business, right? They're selling, they have a store. But what makes entrepreneurship unique is that it answers a specific need. It addresses a specific need that probably um, is not yet provided by anyone, right? So that's curiosity. So um, instead of just saying, okay, we already have this, but you are curious. So you ask more questions. Are there other options? And that's your imagination. And then, of course, creativity will provide you with more solutions. So I think this is very important: curiosity, imagination, and creativity. And for leaders like you and me, we need these three powerful words. If combined together, it can take us, it can take our organization, it can take our churches beyond ordinary. So it's important that we do not stop asking questions. So, where does curiosity come from? Is it inborn or is it instilled? So, what do you think? I mean, does it when is it an innate characteristic of a person, or it is instilled by environment, by family, by school? So, inborn or instilled? So that's the question. Now, of course, it can be both. But this here's what I think. Most of us, when we were yet kids, small children, we have that childlike beginner's mindset. We are always curious. We would always ask questions. We would always ask why. In fact, many of us stopped being curious because of probably the response of those that we ask. Okay. So maybe some of the parents are irritated. You ask too many questions, you just shut up. Okay. So, because of that experience, young children can stop becoming curious. Or even if they're curious, they would stop asking questions because they fear that the adults might get upset at them or might reprimand them for asking too many questions. So naturally, we are all curious when we were small. However, many of us stopped asking questions, stopped being curious because of fear that something negative might happen because we have too many questions. And I think all of us have experienced that. So, curiosity is the key to being a lifelong learner. And it's just unfortunate, or it's sad, that many of us, even when we become adults, even when we become grown ups, are still afraid of asking questions. We we somehow have um brought that sense of discouragement. Okay, we have learned that if I ask questions, I will look foolish, I will look ignorant, I will not look very smart, so I'd rather shut up. I would rather keep quiet. I think there was a quote I have heard, and I have heard when for a long time. It says, if you ask a question, you might appear foolish for a few seconds. But if you don't ask the question, you'll be foolish for the rest of your life. So that means even if you make a fool out of yourself, even if people would laugh at you, even if you appear to be ignorant, it will just be for a short time. Because when you start asking questions, most of the time you will get answers. But if you don't ask, then you won't be able to get the answer. In fact, in school, I'm not sure if this is an experience that you also have. Sometimes a speaker, a teacher, a pastor, or whoever will say, "Do you have any question?" Even if we have questions, many of us do not have that confidence. We don't have the guts to stand up and say, "I have a question. Can I ask a question?" So many of us are too shy, are too ashamed to ask questions. Maybe because it was an experience in the past that, that we have brought along as we age, that has prevented us from asking questions. So if you want to keep growing and developing, you must keep on learning, and curiosity is the key to being a lifelong learner. That's why we should be thirsty for knowledge and continuously ask why or why not. Okay? When people says, "Oh, it's not possible," why not? um, when people says, "Oh, because this is what we have been doing for the past decades, so why can't we not improve? Why can't we not change? Why can't we not get better?" So we continuously ask why and why not, right? Now, so how to cultivate curiosity? So we will start with these points. How do we cultivate curiosity? As I've said, many of us were very curious when we were just small, but because of some negative experiences, we stopped becoming curious. Um, um, I remember growing up, okay, there's a saying that says, "Curiosity killed a cat," right? So that means negatively, they would say, "Don't be too curious because it killed a cat." So somehow it was ingrained in our brain that, okay, let's just take everything as it is and not question why or why not. Um, um, in Ilonggo, most of us are Ilonggos here, di ba? Um, some of our parents would say, "Ti mo, kaya mo gidna mo." Di na basagi pamangkot. So that means because of those experiences, our curiosity was clipped. We stopped becoming curious, and in fact, it prevented us from um, thirsting for knowledge. But of course, curiosity is the key to lifelong learning. So the first thing is believe that you can be curious. Okay, you can be curious. The single greatest difference between curious, growing people and those who are not, okay, is the belief that they can learn, grow, and change. So believe that even if you had a probably a negative experience before that stopped you from being curious, that you can still learn, grow, and change. So this is very important that you have to believe. You have this awareness that I can still learn, I can still grow, I can still change. If I just continue to ask questions, why not, explore, probe, dig deeper, I will be able to learn and continuously grow. So believe you can be curious. Second, have a beginner's mindset. What does this mean? So this is like being a child. When you are a child, definitely you have a beginner's mindset. So it's like you want to learn more. So you're not too proud that you know everything. Okay? You know that there is so much to learn. In fact, maybe you have heard that saying, um, um, when you have learned a lot, then you have learned that you still don't know anything yet. Okay. So you have a beginner's mindset. Having a beginner's mindset means wondering why and asking a lot of questions until you get answers. Okay. So that means you are ready to learn. You don't say, okay, I have been there, I have done that already. That means you always say, I have not always been there. I have not always done that. New ideas are welcome. New learnings are welcome. Okay. I'm not too proud. I'm not too um learned already to stop learning. Okay. Have a beginner's mindset. I think this is very important because many of us, when we become older or when we have assumed leadership roles, we feel like we don't need to learn anymore. In fact, to a point that we are becoming unteachable already. Okay, so that's a very dangerous position to be in. Anytime a person is answering more than asking, okay, so ask yourself, are you answering more than asking? Okay, again, I said a while ago that many leaders or pastors think or believe that their role is to answer, provide answer, the answer guy, the answer man, okay? That I have all the answers that my people need. But it is also very important that you know that when you are answering more than asking, be sure that you have already slowed down in your growth and have lost the fire for personal growth. There's nothing wrong in providing answers. There's nothing wrong in helping your people find answers. But when, as an individual, you are already answering more than asking, then probably you have slowed down in your growth and you have lost the fire for personal growth. Because, even in the scientific world, scientists, those who are the researchers, okay, the more they learn, the more they are convinced that there is more to learn. The more you know, the more you don't know. Remember, the more you study, the more you realize that there's so much more to study. So there's so much more to learn. So don't ask, don't stop asking questions. In fact, for I worked in a research organization for like 7 years, and our researchers would never run out of ideas, of questions, of topics to do research on. And as they say, researchers don't retire because there are plenty of areas, plenty of topics, plenty of problems that they can definitely look into for research. Number three, make why your favorite word. Why? All right. So it's not just what, when, who, but why. Okay. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. One cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery every day. never lose a holy curiosity. And this quote is from no less than Albert Einstein. Okay, one of the greatest, minds of the modern times, they say, because of curiosity. Okay, it's not just about being curious in this physical world, but being curious about eternity, about beyond this earth. Okay, so that's when we think about the more important things of life. Now, this is also a testimony. I grew up in a Christian home. Okay, when I started going to church very early when we were kids. But there was a point in my life that I had to really ask myself, do I believe these things that I hold on to because I am convinced that they're the truth, or I believe them because I was just forced to take it in, to swallow it. So, in fact, in high school and in college, I I had to, ask why. Why am I doing this? Why am I praying? Why am I going to church? Why am I reading my Bible? Why am I doing this? And of course, no, the more you ask these questions, the more you realize, especially if you know the truth, and the more you are convinced, the more you are grounded, the more you, so your Christianity, your faith is not superficial. It's grounded on the truth because you did not just take it in hook, line, and sinker because you were forced to swallow it, but you know it's the truth because you've asked the right questions. All right. So make why your favorite word. A major stimulant to creative thinking is focused questions. Okay. So questions are very important. There is something about a well worded question that often penetrates to the heart of the matter and triggers new ideas and insights. This is according to Brian Tracy. Okay. Questions are very important. Personally, I really love to ask questions. In fact, well, I remember when I was still in Iloilo, many of our young people would not sit with me because I would ask a lot of questions. I would probe and dig deeper just to understand what's going on because uh, it's about there's something. If you're curious, you would always ask, what am I missing here? Okay, although you see things, but you would always ask, what am I missing? Okay, there's something I'm missing. I'd like to find out why. No, I'm not talking about gossip or things that are personal to other people, but it's really the curiosity, what I'm missing here. Okay, so why having this when you always ask why, you would always penetrate to the heart of the matter and triggers new ideas and insights. Now, many of you in your organization, you're familiar with brainstorming, right? So brainstorming that when you come together and come up with possible solutions, answers, you converge and you come up with ideas so that output will be better. But maybe you have not yet encountered question storming. Now, question storming is about questions, okay? Generating questions so that you will be able to see new angles, challenges. It challenges assumptions and breakthrough potential, okay? Because we already have assumptions, okay? We assume that this is the situation and this is the problem and this is the concern, but we know when you begin to question storm, you might be coming with some questions that would really provide you with breakthrough potential. Now, I lead the quality management system in I think three organizations that I have two organizations that I have previously um, been with, and now in my current organization, I'm still leading the quality management system. When you do QMS, like the ISO thing, there will always be some problems that would arise, right? Problems or situations that would require you to address the problem. And the problem is not just addressed superficially. It's not just about what you see. Okay, something broke down, something there's a breach, there's a lapse. But in order to get to the root cause, to the bottom, to the real problem, you need to do what we call um, root cause analysis. And root cause analysis is just asking questions. Okay, at least five whys. So when you encounter a problem, you want to get to the root cause of the problem, you ask why. And then when you find the answer, you ask another why. So these are the five whys that you have to keep on asking and asking, digging and digging until you come to the root cause of the problem. And that's when you address. That's what you address. Because when you address the superficial issues and not address the root cause, then the tendency is the problem would continue to recur. You might be saying, "Oh, I think we have provided solution for this problem already." But the thing is, you haven't addressed the root cause of the problem. So what I'm saying is, even in root cause analysis, or we call the RCAs, it's just asking why. Okay, why did this happen? So blah 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 blah, and then continue to dig deeper with why until you reach the root cause of the problem. All right. Next, spend time with other curious people. Okay, so um, uh, let me ask you, who were you spending most of your time with? Of course, aside from your family, aside from your spouses, who are you spending more time with? Are they curious people? Do they motivate you to ask questions and probe, dig deeper, and learn? So here's a quote from this book, The Creative Priority. Okay, I'll just read this. But basically, it's about rules. Okay. Sometimes rules are good, right? Rules are important. I'm not saying they are not important. Rules are important. But when rules already kill creativity, that means you don't have any more flexibility to do things, to explore a better option, and to go for better solutions because you are boxed in certain rules, then that's counter creative or counterproductive. So, you know, um, it just says here that sometimes because of too much rules and uh, standards, and we become too legalistic. Okay, so even if creative people, you're a creative, sometimes you just avoid ambiguity, the fear of unpredictability. So this is when it comes to the normal organizations, the threat of the unfamiliar and the messiness of the intuition and human emotion. But then let us balance it. So that's my point. All right. So I am not against rules. We are not against rules. Rules are good. Okay, they're there for a reason. But let's better make sure that it allows it also allows creativity. It allows certain flexibility. So it allows options and more solutions, okay, rather than just finding what we call the only answer. The next thing is learn something new every day. Okay, something new. We can always learn something. Again, I would always refer to this time when I'm learning a lot of things. Okay, I'm still learning, but way back in high school, I was reading this book. That's the author says, um, every man knows something that I do not know. Hence, I should strive to get to know that thing that I do not know that they know. Hence, everybody is my teacher. Now, this is true. This is not just, uh, something that is not realistic, because everyone knows something that we do not know. Okay? Everybody that we meet, everyone that we come across with every day, they know something that we do not know. They could be potential teachers. They are teachers, and our goal is to learn that so we can learn something from everybody. Okay, so everybody every day could be a learning experience. So at the end of the day, we can always ask ourselves, what new thing have I learned today? Okay, who did I learn it from? Okay, sometimes we learn it from very unexpected individuals. Okay, it's not just the teachers or those who are learned. No, sometimes even those people, strangers or whoever, again, they have something that we do not know. And if we learn that, okay, we can learn from everyone. Okay, so how do we do this? Wake up with an attitude of openness to something new. When God gives us another day, we wake up. God gives us another opportunity. We are alive. It's another day to learn. It's another day to learn something new so that I will grow. I will continue to become better and reach my full potential for the glory of God. Secondly, keep your eyes and ears open as you go through the day. Now, let me ask you this. Okay, before I know some of you have learned this already. But how many red cars have you seen today? Okay. How many red cars have you seen today? Can you count? Can you remember? Now, many of us probably have seen red cars. Okay. But the reason why we do not know how many red cars we have seen today is because we did not intentionally count, right? Okay, we did not say, okay, I'm gonna count the number of red cars that I'm gonna see today. So maybe we have seen 20 red cars or 50 red cars, but the reason why did not count them is because no, we did not intentionally uh, start this day and say, I'm gonna count the number of red cars that I am gonna see today. It's the same thing with learning. Okay, so if if I ask you, what new thing have exactly what new thing have I learned today, because we have not prepared our minds, our eyes, our heart, our thinking that I'm gonna learn something new today. So that means, just like the red car example, we may have encountered a lot of potential learnings today, but because we did not intentionally prepare ourselves to learn, we miss it. Okay, we missed. So if we ask ourselves, what new thing have I learned today? Er, Actually, there would be plenty of things that we can learn today, but we did not start this day with an openness attitude that I'm going to learn something today. We did not go through this day with open eyes, open ears, open heart, open mind to see and take advantage of anything that we could learn today. And of course, at the end of the day, we don't normally reflect on what did I learn today? What new thing have I learned today? So that you can convert them, remember, convert them into insights, and from insights to wisdom. I no, I'm not saying I'm already at this level, but I have always admired people who, especially pastors, who can use illustration after illustration of their own experiences. And I always wonder, how can I do that? Why do these people have something? they never ran out of illustration, and they do not use other people. They would always use their experiences to use as an example. Okay, um, when they speak, use it as an illustration. I think this is the secret. You know, when we is when we decide that we will learn something new every day, we wake up with that attitude of openness to learning something new, keeping our eyes and ears open as we go through the day. What can I learn? And then at the end of the day, asking ourselves questions that would make us reflect about the learnings that we have today, and turning it into insights, and eventually turning it into wisdom that we can pass on to others. I think if you're a pastor, you would really benefit from this. As I have seen, good communicators are good storytellers. Good communicators would always use illustrations, examples to put life in the lesson. And I mean, we cannot always use other people's experience, but when we go through our day learning something new and not missing it, like the red car example, then we would have plenty of illustrations, plenty of learning that can be turned into insights, that can be turned into wisdom, and that we can pass on to others eventually. All right. The next thing is partake in the fruit of failure, or simply make failure your friend. Now, many of us do not have a good attitude towards failure. In fact, many of us dislike failure, including myself. Okay, when I fail, of course, I don't feel good. Okay, um, but you know, failure is really important. Okay, having the right attitude towards failure, making it your friend. Okay, so that even if you have failed several times, eventually it will be your stepping stone to success. When failure is your friend, you don't ask, how can I distance myself from this experience? Instead, you ask, why did this happen? What can I learn? How can I grow from this? Remember last time? The difference between going through something, okay, and being passive. Okay, I'm going through this problem, I'm going through this challenge, I cannot do anything about it, versus growing through something. Remember, when you grow through something, if you have a problem, a challenge, a difficult situation, you don't just go through it, but grow through it. Then you play an active role. You ask these questions. Why did this happen? What can I learn? How can I grow from this? And as a result, you fail fast, you learn fast, you get to try again fast, and that leads to growth and success. Okay? Failure is actually our friend, but it's our attitude towards failure that, when we fail, it seems as if it's over. Okay, we don't want to reflect, we don't want to ask why, what can I learn, and how can I grow through this and from this. Hence, we always miss, okay, the success that those failures could bring us to had only we pursued. All right, stop looking for the right answer. That means sometimes you also have to look at options. Okay. This is not, of course, when we talk about salvation, there's only one way, and that is the Lord Jesus Christ. He's the only way. But for other issues of life, other problems, other concerns, there could be several, okay? There could be several options and solutions that we can explore, okay? That means instead of saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, okay? I mean, we're good. We don't need to rock the boat. We don't need to fix anything because nothing's broken. We ask these questions instead. If it ain't broke, How can we make it better? Okay? How can we improve? How can we become excellent in what we do? How can we continuously grow? If it ain't broke, when is it likely to break in the future? Okay? So that we can be ready, we can prepare. Or if it ain't broke, how long will it serve as the world changes? We know the world is changing very fast. Okay? Remember last time, what brought you to your position now? Okay? May not be the same thing that will lead you up there in the future. Okay? Many years ago, if you are my age, Pastor Noel, we were we we grew up during times that there were no cell phone. Okay, there were no laptops. Eventually, you have this um, uh, revolution of technology. Okay, that right now um, things are just the innovation is just so fast that if you don't keep up, okay, now it's AI and etc. We don't keep up, then you will be left behind. So what we're saying is, um, we should be open for options. Now, we're not talking about standards or principles or biblical things that are non-negotiable. Okay, we're not talking about that, but we're talking about practical things in life that we don't just look at the right answer, but we try to open our minds. Remember that um, three words: curiosity, imagination, and creativity. Okay, the powerful combination that can bring you beyond ordinary. Now, here's something that I'd like to emphasize. Almost every advance in art, cooking, medicine, the reason why we have advanced technology in medicine, agriculture, engineering, marketing, politics, education, and design has occurred when someone challenged the rules and tried another approach. Okay? They did not just stick to what has been the approach since then. Okay. So the reason why we have all these technological advances is because there were someone who challenged the rules and tried another approach. All right. Get over yourself. Okay. What does this mean? I said at the beginning of this lecture that many of us have had bad experiences when we were growing up that made us stop becoming curious. It made us stop um, asking questions because of embarrassment. Okay, we were reprimanded for asking too many questions. Curiosity killed the cat. Hence, don't be too curious. So we are afraid to fail. We are afraid to try. We are afraid to be criticized. Right? We are afraid to displease um, people. Now, many times, okay, I'm not blaming our family or our parents. Maybe this is the best that they can give, the best that they know how. Many times, those criticisms may come from parents themselves. It may come from family members themselves that stopped you from being curious and make it makes you fear that I might make a foolish out of myself, a fool out of myself. People will make fun of me. People will laugh at me. It's too embarrassing. Hence, we do not we do not become curious. We do not ask questions because of this fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of criticisms. But look, temporary embarrassment is a small price to pay for permanent enlightenment. Isn't it good? Okay. Of course, again, because of our probably negative experiences before, we would rather keep things to ourselves rather than pursue permanent enlightenment, uh, and despite temporary embarrassment. If we never tried anything, I think this is a very good quote. If we never tried anything that might make us look ridiculous, we would still be in caves. Okay, that means those who have discovered breakthroughs in technology, breakthroughs in invention, breakthrough in science, breakthrough in almost any area of life. Many of them, if not all of them, have experienced somehow criticisms, embarrassment, people laugh at them, make people saying they're fools, but they persisted. They continued. They did not, they got over themselves. That's why we have all of this technology and modern discoveries. Okay? So let's not be too focused on ourselves. I know this is not easy. Okay? Even me personally, I have this tendency to just keep quiet and because of fear of embarrassment. But I think this is a good lesson that we can learn tonight. One of the greatest obstacles to curiosity and learning is the reluctance to look foolish in the eyes of the other people. Do you feel this way? Okay. We don't want to look foolish in the eyes of other people. There are two easy ways to tell if this is a potential problem. If this is a potential problem in your life, how do you know that you have this problem? First, you are afraid to fail. Okay. Why? Because you might disappoint someone. Maybe you grew up afraid of disappointing parents, teachers. Okay, so you had this burden to always uh, please people. The second is you take yourself too seriously. That means you cannot make fun of yourself. When people criticize you, you take it seriously. It takes you months or years to get over it. You take yourself too seriously. This is when you know that you have this problem. Okay, that you need to get over yourself. Okay, I don't know where it came from, but I'm sure. Okay, those are legitimate experiences, but we can learn from them. The next one is before we and get out of the box. Okay, think outside the box. What does this mean? It means to creatively think in new ways rather than the usual or expected way of thinking. Okay, out of the box. Think out of the box. This is one of the um, ideas that I learned when I was with a bank before. You think outside the box. Um, there was one leader. Let me share this with you. One leader would say, okay, people think that I have all the answers. Now, when you're a leader or you're a pastor or you're a supervisor or a manager, people would always come to you with a problem, right? He would always come to you with a problem. But here's what he did. He said, every time you go to me with a problem, you have to present three possible solutions. Okay, that's what he did. Don't come to me with just the problem. Come to me with a problem and then with at least three possible solutions. And this is the most important condition. One of the possible solutions, you should be part of it. So you should be a solution oriented person, not a problem oriented person. What do you think about that idea? If you're a leader, I said, wow, I think this is a good idea. People would just come to us with problems and expect us to fix all the problems in the organizations. But when you empower other people, okay, you will not be there forever as a leader, But when you begin to empower them, you pass on that exercise. That means it expands their imagination, their curiosity, and their creativity. Okay, here's the problem. Before I go to my leader, before I go to my boss, he expects me to provide him with three possible solutions, and one of the solutions I should be part of it. Okay, so people will think out of the box. People will not just be reliant, and they will just be dependent on you. Come on, what's the solution? Give me the answer. Give me the answer to this problem. But they will be involved. They will be empowered. They will learn to do it. All life is an experiment, and the more experiments you make, the better. Okay? I'm just showing this to you, but I'm not gonna discuss this. It's about people, the difference between the problem mindset and the solution mindset. Okay, the problem oriented and the solution. A lot of people, and we meet this every day. They just focus on oh, this is the problem. This is the problem. We have a big problem. We have a bad problem. We have. They focus on the problem rather than what could be the solution. Okay, so they're problem oriented and not solution oriented. So when average people ask themselves, can I do this, they base it on the circumstances they see. An abundant thinker asks different questions. An abundant thinker asks, how can I? Okay, instead of can I do this, how can I do this? Okay, so it's not anymore can I do it? But how can I do it? So this simple twist of semantics changes everything, and it forces you to creativity. So just very quick, the scarcity mindset and the solutions oriented or the abundance mindset. Um, we don't have time to discuss this, but this is the two kinds of people that you meet in your organization. There they are people who are just okay, time is running out, regretting, focusing on what we don't have, wasted effort, blah blah blah. So all the negative, the scarcity mindset. But we want to transform people, help them having this solutions oriented or the abundance mindset. We can do this. Okay, so focus on the solution rather than on the problem. And then I think this is the last. Enjoy your life, right? That means every day is a learning experience, even failures. Uh, it just means that whatever we do, we just enjoy it. That means even if it's hard, even if it's stressful, even if it's difficult, we look at it as if we can learn from it. We're having fun. Now, it's not about not taking our work seriously. I'm not saying that. But when you enjoy life, this is part of my experience. I can learn from this. Things will get better. I have Romans 8:28 that says, all things work together for good. God is working all things for my good and for his glory. Everything becomes a learning experience. Okay? It's when we remove the line between work and play. Okay, that means we enjoy. We have fun in what we do. We enjoy what we do. So we enjoy our life. So finally, curiosity is the key to growth. While we can be happy with answers and milestones, we must never stop asking questions. Put no limits on curiosity. The cure for boredom is curiosity, and there is no cure for curiosity. Now, very quickly, I think this is just a 1 minute video. I hope you don't mind. Um, I think most of us are Filipinos here and can understand Tagalog. This is just something that came into my um, uh, phone, and I realized this is very important. So this is a clip from a movie. I don't even know what movie is this, but I think the actors are very popular. One is Sharon Cuneta and Richard Gomez. So just I think this is just uh, um, a For our discussion questions, one, why do you think grown-ups stop being curious? Okay, so in your own life, what made you stop becoming curious? The second is one of the greatest obstacles to curiosity and learning is the reluctance to look foolish in the eyes of other people. Do you have this kind of struggle? How do you plan to overcome this? Okay. And the third is, do you have a scarcity mindset or a solutions oriented mindset? And how do you plan to shift to the solutions oriented mindset? Or if you already have that type of mindset, how do you plan to maintain that kind of mindset in your life? Okay, so I don't know if we can take a photo of these discussion questions so that we can proceed to our discussion groups. Thank you, everyone, and have a good discussion.